You're listening to The Artist Athlete, episode 22. This podcast is dedicated to circus. It's a place for professionals to share their stories, viewpoints, and information, and a place for outsiders to get a sneak peek into our world. Hey friends, fans, and enemies, I'm Shannon McKenna, and I'm the host of the Artist Athlete podcast and the founder of theartistathlete.com. I just got back from San Francisco, and I had such a blast because I have so many Patreons in that city, and it's so cool to get to meet them face to face. And not only that, shout out to Kim, who is an Aerialist and also works for Patreon and took me around the office. Go to patreon.com/theartistathlete and sign up today. People who give $5 a month or more get early access to all of the episodes, and I also offer uncut versions of some of the episodes, like this one. Also, I will personally send you an Artist Athlete podcast sticker, and you'll get my undying love and admiration, which is pretty valuable. Again, it's patreon.com/theartistathlete. My guest today is Terry Crane. Terry trained vertical rope at the San Francisco Circus Center and then graduated from the National Circus School in Montreal. He spent time working various contracts as a solo artist before he discovered his love for creating circus companies with very difficult names to pronounce, such as Circus Syzygy and Acrobatic Conundrum. If you're not driving while you're listening to this episode, you can make a drinking game out of it. Every time I trip over the pronunciation of one of his companies, take a shot. This game can be played retroactively. Take a shot. Here's my interview with Terry Crane. Terry Crane, welcome to the Artist Athlete podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure's all mine. Can you tell the people at home what you do, who you are?
I am a circus artist, so my main specialty is vertical rope.
Is there horizontal rope?
There are many forms of horizontal rope.
Oh, what?
That could be slack rope.
Okay.
That could be tight rope.
Gotcha. So you do vertical rope.
Yeah, I like to distinguish that. Mm-hmm. I also do other aerial things. I do trapeze, duo trapeze, a little bit of partner acrobatics on the ground, and sear wheel. And then besides performing things, I also have a company, Acrobatic Conundrum, and I founded that company, and I'm the artistic director currently, and I teach.
How did you get started with circus?
I think similar story to a lot of people. I was at a circus show at Oberlin College, and I saw somebody doing rope, Jenna Carpenter. I'll just put that out there. And I was totally infatuated with the form immediately. I was like, that's really cool. I want to do that, specifically that rope thing. And I had a little crush on Jenna too, like in that moment. I was like, that's the thing. Rope and rope artists. So that's how I got started. And then from there, so I was at Oberlin College actually at the time. And then from there I kind of took off for my last 2 semesters and went to the Circus Center. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can totally still hear you.
Poking buttons. Okay.
I know. I don't pay attention to this.
Okay, I'm not paying any attention to you.
I just pretend like I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just touching things and seeing. My sound editor will fix this all later.
Perfect. Well, it looks really professional when you
Thanks, man.
So yeah, I went through Circus Center.
You went through, San Francisco Circus Center. Mm-hmm. Nice.
And that's where I heard about Montreal.
Okay.
I was just discovering the circus world, and I heard about this legendary place called Montreal, and I went to the audition a few months later, although I almost didn't go because the morning of I could not find my ballet slippers, and it says very specifically on the audition form that you they'll just like turn you away if you don't have gym shoes or ballet slippers. So I was like, it's not worth it. I'm not going. And I had a friend who was like, that's stupid. You should go. And so it worked out.
And you're talking about the National Circus School in Montreal?
Yes, ENC.
Just to clarify.
Yeah, absolutely.
And did you find your ballet slippers?
No.
So they let you in even though you didn't have ballet slippers?
No, I ended up buying a pair. And at the audition, it was the Toronto audition. So they have like satellite auditions in several different cities. And so it was a smaller one. And it turned out I was the only person with proper footwear. So
wow.
Perhaps there's a lesson in that. I don't know, but maybe show up.
That's some insider information for the people.
Yeah.
That's how you get into ENC. Bring the footwear.
Bring the footwear.
What was your time like there?
I found Montreal to be my time at the National Circus School was the most difficult 3 years of my life, hands down. The winter was hard. The kind of psychological climate of the place was difficult. You're being constantly evaluated. I think a lot of people who go there already have kind of a tendency to be kind of like constantly self-evaluating in kind of an unhealthy way. So, and the environment like will only encourage you to do that more. So I know that my experience is not unique and that a lot of people have had a very difficult time there. And found it very psychologically challenging. That said, graduating, I had a really great network of other circus artists and circus companies that were absolutely invaluable to start my career. And I had a couple rope tricks.
Nice.
So, I don't know how much you want to know about ENC. That was a long time ago for me now.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And that's something else I wanted to ask you, or I'm curious about, is I feel like the program has changed. I don't know much about their programming. I never went there or even really attempted to go there. But I do know, or it seems like there was at some point a shift in what they were making and the artists they were producing. Would you say that's accurate?
I guess I may not be clued in enough to that to really know. I think that what's happened really steadily for sure is it has just gotten bigger. They've admitted more and more students, and that's putting onto the market a lot of circus artists. And for sure, when you go other places in the world that have established circus communities, they'll be like, you went to Montreal. There's a style.
Yeah.
For sure. People also like come out of the school and break that mold. They're also renowned for like having a very high technical level and a certain range of creativity, which it was really cool for me. Everyone gets an artistic counselor in your second year. And this is somebody who's just your mentor. You meet with them like every week. And they're
How do they assign that to you?
Oh, it's like in a dark, smoky room.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But there are a bunch of them, and they're from, a bunch of different disciplines. You have theater, you have clown, you have dance. And for me, that was huge. Having this person who was just really dedicated to helping me find my creative process and to seeing me as an artist and reflecting back what he saw and then being like, you should go deeper into that. It was really invaluable. And that's how I came up with the act that I graduated with where I played kind of a puck character.
Mm-hmm. How much of that work or working with him has translated into what you do now with Acrobatic Conundrum?
It's a tricky one to say. I love companies with really tricky names.
Acrobatic Conundrum.
Let's see. Well, okay, here's how I think that ENC really did pave the way for me to do ensemble work. Because that was another big part of it, is that they force you to work as a team and to once again come up with work that would then be evaluated. And sometimes you're just like thrown in there with a group of people, some of whom you share a language with or a culture, and many of whom you don't. It's like kind of, trial by fire for collaboration. It was really difficult, but I really enjoyed it. And I knew that was something that I wanted to return to.
What was your first contract out of the school?
Starlight. I worked for Cirque du Soleil in Switzerland.
Fun. That's awesome. Did you enjoy it?
I did. Yeah, it was idyllic in some ways, and really hard work in others.
Yeah.
And for low pay.
Yeah.
As well, but it was a huge adventure. We had a great time. I happened to go there with a few other graduates from ENC. I mean, we had a lot of fun together, pounding stakes into the ground, and living in trailers. There's something I love about the traditional circus lifestyle is that you are living together in a circus community, and there were probably people from 10, 11 different countries there, and we managed to find a language together, even though there were like 5 Chinese acrobats who didn't speak anything but Mandarin, and guys from Morocco, guys from Romania. It's kind of a beautiful thing to see the cooperation happen. I also love having my own private space and yet being close to other people, like my own kitchen, and yet like I could, walk 20 feet and see my friend. So tell me about this trajectory. You did ENC, Starlight, and then I know Acrobatic Conundrum, but I feel like there's like a lot more. There were a few years in between. I bounced around doing other various contracts, and at a certain point I was like, this is not why I wanted to do circus. I don't want to just be a soloist going from place to place and not have any say in the art that I was producing and who I was doing it with. And then out of that, I decided to co-found a project with a bunch of artists from ENC, Mick Holzbeck, Maria Diker, Duo Madrona, Giulio Lanzafame, and that was my first difficult to pronounce circus company, Circus Syzygy.
Shut up.
Yeah. Try it.
Circus Syzygy. No, I got the Circus Syzygy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
How many Z's are in that? Just
one Z.
Syzygy.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there are no vowels in it.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I know. Every time I come up with a really difficult to pronounce word, and now I'm like, oh wow, that could be good. Like isthmus.
Isthmus is a beautiful word. It rhymes with
circus too.
Circus isthmus.
Circus isthmus.
Circusmus.
So, because Cirque du Soleil. Like if people can learn to pronounce that,
that is not the same as what is it? Syzygy?
Syzygy. It's not that hard.
So what did you do? So what was the project with
Circus Syzygy?
Circus Syzygy.
Yeah, we that was a really fun project that lasted for about 2 years. It was pure collaboration. There was no director.
Wow.
It was the 6 of us, and we made a couple shows. We ended up in France, performing at a festival, and we were together 24/7 for about 3 months, building this show, putting our blood, sweat, and tears into it. And by the end of it, we had a show that I was super proud of. It's maybe some of the work that I'm most proud of in my life. And none of us, well, okay, hang on. People may hear this. It challenged our friendships in a deep way.
How did you find creating in France different than creating now with Acrobatic Conundrum in Seattle?
Well, so we were at the La Granerie, the granary in Toulouse, and they were really awesome. And we landed that, I think, really thanks to Marie-Ève Diker's kind of Québécois connection. We were basically 4 Americans and 1 Québécois. And they...
You had a token person.
We were French enough.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it was awesome. We showed up and they're like, here's your trailers, here's the kitchen, here's this theater, gorgeous, giant black box theater. You have 24-hour access for the next 2 months. Go create. We'll pay you for the show when you're done. Sorry, we can't pay for your airfare here. And we're like, oh, well, do better next time.
Yeah, right.
Versus creating now, we have less access to residencies of that kind of length and caliber, for sure. And Acrobatic Conundrum is different in a number of ways also, deliberately from that project. part of what was so challenging about Syzygy was that there was no director. And when push came to shove, no one's vote counted more than anyone else. So we spent a lot of energy just exerting our wills over each other. And fast forward to after that project, someone asked me if I wanted to co-found a circus company with her. And I said, great, I'm happy to. I think there needs to be a director for the preservation of all of our friendships. So that's how I found myself in that role.
Oh, so it was you.
Yeah, well,
you were the director.
And then right. And then she was like, great, can you do it? I was like, well, okay. So I feel like I'm sort of in a funny situation of like wanting to push the work forward so that I have an opportunity to perform, but feeling strongly that there needs to be a director and filling that role. So I wouldn't say that it's like first nature to me.
To direct.
But I have since learned that, you know, since starting the company, like there are so many different leadership styles out there. And I think that everyone has a style of leading if needs be.
What is your style?
Oh, wow.
I get from you like dictator.
I would not say dictator. Wait, okay.
I'm being funny now. Yeah, no, that was
yeah. No, I'm not much of a dictator. I would say that my strong suit is in creating a container for people. I feel like, my job is really to create a space where people feel safe enough to bring work that they really care about. And that can look like a lot of different things. That's like leading group warm-ups where we, get to improvise and play together, or having like check-ins where people feel safe to like say what's really going on with them. Or that can be like, I've written a show, it's a starting point. Let's try and fit in, your existing work. I think it's really about creating space that feels conducive to creativity.
Is most of the shows I've seen Love and Gravity?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I saw it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And then I saw the piece, obviously, today. And they're very different. Are they both yours in conception?
Yeah. I would say that the initial spark in both cases is from me.
And is that par for the course for the work of Acrobatic Conundrum in general, or are there other?
There have been some
creators?
other experiments for sure. We have worked with a couple outside choreographers and directors, and with Love and Gravity, we the original creation process was it came out of conversations that we had as a group. We want to make a show about our actual relationships with each other, share that with the audience, and then we had this idea that we were gonna continue creating and go to different cities, and in each city we would invite in an artistic eye from that place to give us feedback and lead us in a different direction with it.
Whoa.
Kind of, yeah. And
that's insane to me.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
What's crazy about that?
I don't know. I feel like there's something about when you make something. I think about it like a tattoo, right? Like you have a tattoo, and a lot of tattoo artists won't, unless you're doing a full cover up.
Yeah.
They don't want to touch it up, or they don't want to change it in any way because it's someone's work.
Right.
And once you've made something, it's like then you take it to someone else and have it remake it for them, and then take it to someone else and have it remake it for that. So to me, at first it was, but now that I'm saying it out loud, it's kind of cool. Yeah,
I mean, none of these people had executive rights over any of the material. It was we had some ideas, we put it together, and then we worked with Janet McAlpin from UMO, and she came in and she said, you guys really need to go for the theater, it needs to feel real in this scene. And then we went to here and worked with Jaron at Kinetic Arts, and he was like, okay, well, here's how your clown technique could be a lot tighter in this scene. And from all of that, we sort of culled what we wanted to. And there was definitely some advice that we chose to ignore. Mm-hmm. I won't say whose.
But all those decisions are yours directorially.
I mean, yes and no. I think we work with a spectrum of decision-making styles in Conundrum. I have the bottom line, but there's rarely a decision that I make in which I don't, like, I'm never going to make a decision that somebody hates. There are decisions that are just unilateral, and then there are decisions on the other end that are like, that we actually do make through consensus. And then some like consultative decisions in the middle where I'm like, there's a few different options here, and I'm interested in what the artists have to say about it.
This podcast is brought to you by The Artist Athlete. Did you know that The Artist Athlete is more than just a podcast? It's a growing online resource for students of the aerial arts to deepen their journey to badassery by accessing techniques approved by physical therapists and master coaches in the industry. Our current spotlight is on the fundamentals of aerial alignment, a practical manual for hanging upside down. This online manual is a step-by-step guide. It is complete with photos, videos, and exercises that you can implement immediately to help you gain the strength and awareness you need for an aerial practice that promotes shoulder health and longevity and good posture upright, so you don't walk around like a gorilla. But don't just take my word for it. Here's circus physical therapist Dr. Jen Crane of Cirque Physio to tell you more.
The fundamentals of aerial alignment is an absolute must-have for every aerialist of every level. I can't even tell you how many shoulder injuries I treat that are a direct result of rushing past the basics and attempt to get a trick too soon. In the manual, Shannon deconstructs the fundamentals, including the correct muscular engagement to safely arrive in these positions and the rationale for why it matters. Of course, in addition to all of these fabulous pearls of wisdom, the book is also ridiculously fun to read. It's been lovingly garnished with the Shannon humor we all know and love.
Thanks, Jen. Cirque Physio is also featured in the book to give scientific insight into why it all works. Pick up your copy today by going to theartistathlete.com and clicking e-manuals. Listeners of the podcast can get a 10% discount by typing in the offer code PODCAST at checkout. Again, that's theartistathlete.com, offer code PODCAST. Now, back to the show. So take me through the process of creating a show, of the acrobatic conundrums approach to creating a show. You have an idea, and then do you get a cast? Do you get a script? Do you book it right off the bat? And then how do you guys do it?
I think it usually goes like this. We're like, there's a grant deadline in 2 weeks. Susie Williams.
Go on.
Susie Williams is my managing director, and she's like, can we write something for this? And we're like, well, you remember that idea we had about the game theory or the relationships or whatever? Like, let's try and write this. So that's that's one way.
So
that
you
it can
need
go.
money. So then
we need money, and there's an opportunity. Yeah, exactly. And there's some pressure. There's like some publisher pressure. So, I mean, typically, like, I'll arrive at the table with a lot of ideas, and then we will have some discussions as a group.
And when you say we, who are you referring to?
Oh, yeah. So I guess I skipped a bit. We cast some artists. And,
cool. Okay.
And there are, like, we try to continue working with the same artists as much as possible, because I think that relationship really shows up on stage if you have a lot of experience together. So there's generally a lot of discussion between the existing artists and the artists that we cast. Yeah, so it's really pretty murky, the creation process, but I think generally it starts, there's an idea, there's some discussion where we throw a lot of things out on the table, and then we get in the studio together. I also try to come to the studio with as much of a plan as possible, knowing that, no good plan survives first contact with implementation, and that it's going to change. And that's a beautiful thing about circus too, is that, in my opinion, it really lends itself to collage. Is that a word?
Oh, it's 100% a word.
I was like, wait a second. Is that just in French? Yeah.
I think it is a French
patchwork.
word, but we say it in English as well. Yeah.
I just had a moment there looking at you. I was like, I don't know if this is a thing.
No, that's just such an interesting... Keep talking.
Yeah, no, and for me, and I have realized like I love collage because I like juxtaposing things in ways that are not literally obvious why they're both there.
I guess the reason that I made that was kind of like is because in a more traditional idea about circus, you would have a ring and a act in a ring.
Yeah.
And it's very much not what the work in Acrobatic Conundrum is.
Okay.
When you say circus lends itself to collage.
Yeah, well, I think, even in that traditional environment, you're looking at a collage. It's a collection of different random things, that we work to kind of make happen in the same world, right? Like you have a straps act next to a Chinese pole act, next to a clown, next to a juggler.
Gotcha.
You're juxtaposing a bunch of unalike things, having this pretense that they all belong together. which they do.
That's totally true. But in Acrobatic Conundrum world, you're juxtaposing like rocks hanging from the ceiling to aerial ropes.
Right.
So where does that jump happen?
Yeah, where does that jump happen? Yeah, and alongside that, there's, alongside the my love of collage, there's also kind of trying to parse things down to a unifying principle too. And those, I think there's a fundamental tension between those things. So like, in the piece we're doing right now, you alluded to the little trigger lines that we have hanging.
This is so great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really into them too. Because that's something we normally have off stage is the trigger lines.
Yes.
For the kabuki drops, it's like something you hide. And I was like, well, we should just have like a trigger line orchestra.
It's so good. And spoiler alert, the best part is when you pull the trigger line and nothing comes down. The payoff, it's yeah.
Yeah, so she was actually genuinely not expecting that today. And I think another challenge for us is like set, because the reality is that we have like very small budgets, no matter where we are. And regardless of how big your budget is, we don't want to like schlep around like a Russian swing and a whole bunch of,
a wheel of death and
for sure. And all the things that you can use to like make up a Broadway musical set. So we tend to choose like very simple, easy to transport sets like rocks and ropes.
Do you see that going forward with Acrobatic Conundrum? Like, is the plan to have a tent and to have all of the bells and whistles? It seems like you guys kind of like the bare bones aesthetic.
That is a good question. I think we like theater. I like theater a lot because I like the magic of the darkness and the light and the control that you have over things appearing and disappearing. I think that we're not going to get into tented circus because we just don't want to have to hire that many people. You need a village, really. And we're right now we're traveling pretty light. We're usually like 6 or 7 people on tour. And the, enjoying theater thing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there's like a few things that Susie and I have said that we just aren't interested in, which may change someday, but it's like, we don't want to start a school. We don't want to do tented circus. We don't want to do corporate events. Those are a lot of good income sources there that we've eliminated off of the list.
Yeah, you really do need those grants, huh?
Yeah, we need grants and we need donors. We also have some donor income. That's something that's developed over the last few years, and I think it's kind of an old school way of running an arts organization.
Have donors?
Yeah, you see like the ballet and the opera and these kinds of things where people who have money feel like I
have never thought of that before, but yeah, you don't really get that in circus.
Not as much. I think with circus, you have a lot more like revenue-based, like ticket revenue-based budgets.
Or concessions and those kinds of things.
Yeah. But I think people who want this kind of feeling of supporting art, I think historically have not thought of circus as like a high art form. But I think that we may see a change with that, with contemporary circus. And I think, in Seattle, people of a certain demographic are being like, that's a cool thing. I want I want to be there and support you guys like every year and be a part of the community. Starting to get the language.
Do you know of any other companies in the US that are functioning on that model as well? Circus-based? I know some physical theater companies. Mm-hmm. Dance companies for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But you define yourself as a circus company.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How is that for grant? I'm asking two questions at once, but how is that for grant writing?
Let's go with that one. It's never hurt us for grant writing.
Okay.
Honestly, Seattle, it's been great. We've gotten a few city grants. We just got our first like mini NEA grant.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, sometimes it's kind of confusing. What box do you check? You know, mm-hmm. Theater or dance are typically the options. And we tend to lean more dance, but it's a tough call.
Check them both.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people are interested, I think grant applications, they're interested in multidisciplinary as well. That's been a buzzword for like the last 20 years. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Do you have any advice for anybody who would want to start a circus company in the US?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think that Acrobatic Conundrum, for us, like we would love to support an abundance of circus companies forming nationwide. I think identifying your decision-making structure pretty early on is going to be a good way to go. I think establishing really strong local roots in one place is essential.
Which is so interesting because, again, it seems so counter-circus.
In what way?
Well, you think of circus as like a traveling show, right?
Right.
Or like even like you were saying before, like kind of the MO for a circus artist is you travel and you're a soloist and you get the next contract or you get the next thing and you go to that.
It's true. Yeah, and you think of like these, like, I don't know, Barnum and Bailey or like American circuses as being kind of rootless. Yeah. You know? I don't know where their base is. Was it like Sarasota or something?
Yeah, in Sarasota.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think arts organizations in general, I just don't think anything exists in the global sphere without coming from a place. And inherently representing that place also. So we're from Seattle and we are supported by Seattle, and I think that to some degree we represent a voice from the Northwest, and I think that's it's just been really important. Like we would never get donations from, that's not true, we've gotten one or two donations from people who have seen us while on tour, more than one or two, but the vast majority of them, I keep undermining what I'm saying, but it's really important to be attached to a place. Don't start without that.
And then my last question, which I always ask everyone, is what advice would you give to yourself at the very beginning of your career?
I just ate this piece of chocolate.
That's okay. You gave yourself some thinking time.
You know, my first thought is that this is a little sad.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
Wait, this is your last question?
I mean, usually no. Usually I wind up asking more questions because you say something, but like...
No, well, I think it's such a great journey, and I think that it is such a good way to learn about yourself, and I think that one of the things that I've learned about myself is that I started on this journey because of a search for community and for a sense of like belonging within a community. And there are just paradoxical things that will happen to you as you go down this road of of like finding the thing that you want and being really close to it, like creating community for others, and somehow it ever sort of recedes from your grasp too. So which is I guess what I'm just saying is that, I don't know, have a hard look at your reasons and don't tread down the path lightly, because there are a lot of other ways to maybe like look for the shortest road possible for what you want to attain. If you like performing, maybe it doesn't serve you to necessarily go to a circus school and pursue this really long road to what you want to achieve. Maybe it's like right within your own community. There was a study that came out about ENC graduates, and the study was about why people end their circus careers and transition to other careers. And do you know what the number one reason was?
I think I do, because I think I've heard this.
Yes.
Oh, you want me to say it?
Yeah.
So I thought it was relationships.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a true fact. So I think that there's a big trade-off that happens when you go this route. So it's not easy as far as...
It is incredibly lonely.
Yeah.
There
can be a lot of loneliness to traveling, and that's something to take into consideration, before you head down that road. But I don't think that's going to stop anybody either. So I don't know that that's
So
worth
the
my
advice that you would give yourself is you're going to be very lonely.
But there will be glory.
It's so glorious.
And you will see the world, and you will meet so many people and experience, a kind of intimacy with audiences and the entire world stage, and so many good things.
So many good things. I don't have any other questions.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, the pleasure has been all mine. Yeah.
Come on the podcast anytime.
Okay, cool. So when will this episode come out?
Yeah, it may take me a while to edit it.
Okay. And if people want to hear or see more about Acrobatic Conundrum, what could they do?
Well, we are touring this fall. We will be in New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Baltimore, NECA, and Oberlin College.
I like that you said NECA like it was another city.
It's a city.
Yeah, it basically is. Online? Anywhere?
Yeah, acrobaticconundrum.com.
Yay. Well, thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
That was my interview with Terry Crane. Friends, fans, and enemies, sometimes when I go to give an interview, I know exactly what it's going to be about. Or as I'm listening to my guest, I can kind of sense a story in the episode. But with Terry, this wasn't the case. I had this idea in my head that Terry was going to talk about the process of creating and directing Acrobatic Conundrum, and we certainly did do that. Terry lent great insight into his directing process, which is one of deep collaboration with the artists he works with, and even brings in choreographers and directors from outside the company who can lend their voices to his work. And yet, he still maintains a sense of ownership over the decision-making. However, another emphasis in this interview, which I don't think I heard until I was listening back to the tape, is Terry's deep love for creating not just his own work, but a community in which the work can be created. This is something he searched for in the early years of his career, and it is what he's creating in Seattle with Acrobatic Conundrum. And this creation of a base, or a solid community, can seem a bit of a paradox, or dare I say a conundrum, to people who think of circus as constantly traveling or moving. But from the inside, it is a close-knit community of people who have to trust each other and move together. And the more a community bases itself in support, rather than divisiveness or competition, the stronger that community can grow. Another point that I'm so glad Terry brought up is this perception of circus in the US that he's helping to build, that circus should be considered a high art form. This is not a revolutionary or new idea. In Russia, a musician could train to play for the opera, or the ballet, or the circus. In France, as you heard in this interview and others, great space and time is given to the production of circus. And in places like Canada and Australia, these countries consider circus a great cultural export. And it's so encouraging to me to see the work of Acrobatic Conundrum and others who are growing this art form in the US. If you want to see their work, they'll be on the East Coast. Their tour begins this September. And to find out more details about it, go to acrobaticconundrum.com. It's going to be a really great show. There's some really wonderful performers in it. I highly recommend. If you're in one of the cities that Terry listed, go check them out. Another great way to support the growth of the circus community, if I do say so myself, is to go to patreon.com/theartistathlete and become a Patreon to help me continue to share the stories of movers and shakers within the industry with all of you. For training tips, information about me, or to contact me directly, you can follow me on Instagram at _artist_athlete or on my website, theartistathlete.com. Also, it's super helpful to subscribe to the podcast and leave a rating and review on whatever platform you listen on. Next week on the podcast, I have the lovely Searchma Bayamba. Talk to y'all then. The Artist Athlete podcast is supported solely by donations from people like you. Here's what some of those people have to say.
Hey there, friends, fans, and enemies. This is Chris Alston, Patreon of the Artist Athlete podcast. Straps artist and lyra performer and acrobat out of Greenville, South Carolina. So, if you're ever passing through, make sure to stop in and see me and my friends. We have a wonderful space, and we'd love to see you.